Problem. Yes, the audio mic. There's no audio mic.
We cannot capture that. There's a whole
There are 4 people online.
I think we can start. Maybe we can.
Good morning. Thank you for being here today for the launch of this women-only additional seats report done by Projek SAMA together with our partner Bait Al Amanah and also Power funded by the Canadian Local Initiative Fund. My name is Charlie. I am the convener of Projek SAMA. And last year we wanted to do something on women representation, especially in the states of Sabah and Terengganu. So we come up with this proposal, and we conducted 2 workshops and also 2 reports. And today is actually the fruit of these 2 workshops and these 2 reports that we produced. Thanks to partners and all the people who support this initiative and this advocacy. Today the flow of today's program is that we will have Hamzi, who is the researcher in Sabah University, as well as researcher in Projek SAMA, presenting the 2 reports. At the end of the presentation, there will be a QR code where you can scan and download the report. After that, we will have a panel discussion, a forum, which we have very honored to have 3 panelists who are really working on the ground, pushing for women representation through this women additional top-up seat. So we will hear from them, their insights and their stories, their experience in the forum. So, and we will hope to end by 12:30. So without further ado, let me invite Ms Ilyana, the first Secretary of High Commissions of Canada in Malaysia, to give a welcome and opening speech. Ms. Ilyana.
Good morning. Bonjour. to increase women's legislative representation in Sabah and Terengganu. I would also like to thank Dato Ong Bee Leng from PWDC, Ms Beverley Koh, STAR, Datin Fazar Arif from Power, and Ilyana from Bait Al Amanah for their invaluable participation in the panel discussion that will follow. The Government of Canada is a strong advocate for gender equality in political representation, recognizing that inclusive leadership leads to stronger governance and a more just society. In Canada, the proportion of women members of parliament has steadily increased from 20% in 1997 to 30% in 2023. Canada is also proud to have achieved gender balance cabinet, underscoring our commitment to ensuring women's voices are integral to policy making. On the international stage, Canada continues to champion women's leadership. At the landmark Women's Foreign Ministers meeting held in Toronto last year in September, the co-chairs, the Honourable Ms Beverley, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada, and Senator the Honourable Smith, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade of Jamaica, issued the following strong commitment. We are encouraged that women's political representation globally has doubled in the last 25 years. However, this still only amounts to around 1 in 4 parliamentary seats held by women today. We pledged to advance women's participation in leadership and decision-making and support safe and inclusive spaces for women in politics and public life. Canada recognizes that achieving gender equality or gender parity in politics is a global challenge, but also a local one with far-reaching consequences. In Malaysia, women make up nearly half of the population, but this is not reflected in political representation. The WOAS initiative, championed by Projek SAMA, presents an opportunity to take the first steps towards efforts to rectify this imbalance by advocating for systemic changes to increase the number of women in the state assembly. The significance of this project for Malaysia cannot be overstated. Greater representation of women in legislative bodies will lead to policies that reflect the needs of all citizens, addressing issues such as healthcare, education, social welfare from a more inclusive perspective. Increased participation of women in politics also fosters a culture where young girls and aspiring leaders see themselves represented, breaking barriers and inspiring future generations to engage in government and public service. Really glad to see here today quite a balance of women and men. It's very encouraging for the support of gender parity in public life. Beyond Canada, the CFLI plays a critical role in supporting grassroots initiatives that drive meaningful change. Projek SAMA's advocacy for women-only additional seats aligns with Canada's broader vision for political empowerment and equity. We believe that increasing women's representation requires not only institutional reforms, but also sustained mentorship, capacity-building workshops, and knowledge sharing platforms within local communities. This report launch is not just a discussion, it is a call to action. It provides an opportunity for civil society organizations, political parties, and policymakers to work together in shaping a future where Malaysian women have equal opportunities to lead and influence the nation's direction. By integrating women's perspectives in decision-making, Malaysia stands to benefit from more inclusive policies, stronger governance, and a more dynamic and equitable political landscape. Before I conclude, I would like to once again commend Projek SAMA and all stakeholders involved for their dedication and vision, and thank you to the rest of you for joining in this effort today. This is a pivotal step in advancing gender equality in Malaysia, and Canada is proud to stand alongside you in this journey. Thank you.
So without further ado, I would like to invite Tangsi come on stage and we'll do a report on our research and yeah.
Hi, very good morning. Thank you for coming and joining us for this report launch. I'm Francis, working at Sabah University and also a member of Projek SAMA. And in today's series, the coming half hour I will only cover 4 main subject matters that related to our report. The first is actually why we need gender quota for political industry. I believe everyone of us have a consensus women is a very important player in society. All of us want more women involvement in the politics, but why we need to go through gender quota is what I will cover in the first part. The second part is the challenge of imposing gender quota under Malaysia's current political structures or electoral structures. I will share about some of the challenges within Malaysian election law that hinders the impositions of gender quota. The third part, I will talk more about why the proposals, the proposal that we propose to Sabah, to Terengganu, actually is built on the works has been done in Penang. So it's a very brief introduction of how we can utilize current appointed member system for increasing women representations. And the final part, I will show some of the results, some of the simulations. What if the woman only eligible seats was imposed in 2020 for Sabah, 2023 for Terengganu? So this is the fourth part I will cover for the coming 30 minutes. So before I go into the substantial content, there are some milestones which I'll share. The first milestone actually starts from Penang in November 2021, or even go earlier. This is the first time I was looking in this project through Professor Wong, and of course it's the collaboration with the Penang government and PWDC, the CEO, Ms. Wong is here. Thank you very much for having us on this project. So without this project, we will not go further to Sabah and Terengganu maybe. Of course, the history can go back to the 1960s when Shinhua is still in Penang Institute. They will talk about, I think under YB Chongming, she talk about how to increase women representation through different methods. There's a conference on women is being held in Penang in 2016. So move forward to more recent milestones. We have our workshop in Sabah around October 2024. Some of our participants are here. Thank you very much for coming to KL to join this event. And of course, our co-organizer in Sabah, Datin Fazar Arif, very much in successfully holding an event in Kota Kinabalu, which I think is more than around 60 participants. The next event is in Kota Terengganu, although the number of participants is not as huge as Kota Kinabalu, probably it's around 15 members from academia and one politician background. But we still have a full discussion to understand how Terengganu people see women representations. But these are 3 milestones we should celebrate, and this milestone leads to today's presentations. So I go to the substantial part. Why Malaysia need gender quota? This is the graph for Malaysian gender gaps. It's published by Dawson. The more interesting part is actually at the left-hand side, because the right-hand side of the audience. Because the left-hand side is quite small, it's actually describing 4 index for each state. The 4 index related to economy, education, health, and political empowerment. So there's a common trend you can see for the other index. Malaysia performed fairly well, or some are okay. But when we go to political empowerment, is the left, your right-hand side, the bottom right-hand side, the row. The index go until 0.12, as compared to education is around 0.644, or economy around 0.644, or education and payments is around 1.067 for index, which means for gender equality part, the other sector probably Malaysia perform okay. I will not say very perfect, very ideal, but it's much more better than political industry. That's the facts we have in Malaysia. Not other industries, like for example in education industry, probably for men and women, they want to, they go for university, they go for school, it's okay in terms of equality. But in political side, there's a huge challenge. So if you go by state, your the graph at the left hand side is still the gap, but the index divided according to state, you see some of the states perform better, usually it's 11%, but overall generally it's not good. The graph you can see it's high, but if you observe the y-axis is around 0.3. So if it goes 0.1, everyone will become very flat, very low, because most of the states are between 0.0 something and 0.2. So that establishes why in political industry we need quota. It's not a new thing in Malaysia. We know that even in business sectors, if you are a listed company, there might be requirements of the board of directors. You might need to try to achieve that there's women representation in business decision-making sectors. But so far we haven't had any law requirements on political industry. And you can see it on international ranking, Malaysia ranked 151 across 200 plus countries. So it's the final quarter segments among the world. Although we changed three governments. Yeah, so that's the situation for women representations. That establishes why we need gender quota in political industry. Why we need quota to accelerate women involvement in politics. To be honest, women is not weak in Malaysia, but in political industry they become a disproportionate representation. That is the question we need to solve. So come to the second question: why the current system doesn't help, or why the current system, in certain extent, hinder women representations? So the core question is actually answering how our electoral system, which is first past the post, in an easy concept is every constituency, every kawasan, there's one MP or one Dato only. And the most vote not necessarily pass through 50%, the most vote, the person who gets the most vote can win. So why this system hinder women representation? Because in a constituency-based electoral system, especially the single member one, the personal connection between the representative and the constituents, which means the MP and the voter, is very close. And in current situation, in current framework, every constituency has one MP, and majority are men. So there's a very cruel question we need to ask if you want to enhance women representation. Is that how to replace the male incumbent in the current constituency, and the replacement must come from a female. Because not necessarily the case, a male retire, a female replaced. And in some case, a female retired from politics by a male. The most recent example is actually Mahkota by-elections. A woman had passed away by the national focus by-elections. Both camps stand back for the girl. So the core question is not only how to replace the male incumbent, but also secure the female incumbent. But there might be some scenarios that hinder, that cause more difficulties on nominating more women candidates. I put two scenarios on the slide. The first scenario is that if you feel a woman candidate in a very weak constituency for that party, for example, I feel a woman's candidate in Kelantan, which means your ethnic stronghold. Although you might achieve the quota for candidate, but there's no substantial chance for you to win the seat. So that you can't create a replacement of male incumbent. But in the second scenario, in the electorally strong constituency, which means your party stronghold, either the incumbent in that constituency are very popular. usually it's a male incumbent in current situation. We are talking about the ratio around 8 point something to 1. How could you replace this incumbent with a woman? The dilemma is that if the incumbents are popular, why should you replace him? And the risk of replacing him is actually losing the support base because you are replacing someone who is popular. But even if the incumbent is not that popular, but is in the stronghold of the party, the other hurdle is fight through the party candidacy selections process, which is male dominated. And especially in by-election or heavily contested elections, no party would risk to field new candidate. Some probably become of biased considerations. Some probably, to be better saying, is about inability. But some is probably like this we need to deal with a social bias, and also in the sense that how should we select which new incumbent to replace? That's a core question in the first class support system. Because in a more bigger, in other systems, for example, in the Singapore system is still a majoritarian system, but they have a big constituency called group representative constituencies, the GRC. So in one constituency, you are served by 5 MP as a team. Since you are served by 5 MP in that constituency, it will be weird for every party not to fill in women candidate first. And second, that if there is a weak new candidate, it is more easier to replace that than in a single member constituency. Because you just need to do the adjustment, kick out the weakest new incumbents in the team and replace it with a female. But that's not the case in Malaysia. The best scenario for women representation, the increase of women representation, is actually the political upheaval, which means there's a shift of electoral support from one camp to the other camp. And coincidentally, this camp feel more women. These situations, the most recent example is happened in 2022 Johor state elections, which Barisan Nasional happens to feel more women candidate, and they're really big enough to defeat the Satu male incumbent or PH male incumbent in Johor. That's why Johor women representation increased from 10% plus to 22%. This happens also in UK in the recent general elections for Labour, because most of the Labour win very big for these general elections, and Labour have policies for women's candidate quota. However, there probably most of the time you have a situation that constituencies become a stronghold for the party, or the political structure becomes stagnant, which is not easy for a big win for either party. Then you need to face back to the status quo and asking the question how to replace the new incumbent, or how to force the new incumbent to retire in order to refill for women candidate. That's why in first past the whole system without gender quota, there's less likelihood of huge increase in women representations. However, why if impose gender quota in the first past the whole system? There's only two ways. Either you meet the quota at candidacy part, either you impose the quota at the final result, the seat. We reserve some of the seat just for women. Both of the policy probably being implemented in other countries, but facing some of the policy difficulties. For example, for candidacy quota, what if a party, in order to fulfill the quota, just filling women's candidate in their weakest part? Pick an example, for example, past filling women's candidate in Chinese majority constituency, they are filling candidate in Kelantan. Eventually, although the candidate, women candidate increased, but eventually, when we go to Dun and Parliament, you don't have huge change on women representation. That causes questions. If you go for reserve seat, then the question is which constituency should be reserved for women, and why that constituency should reserve for women instead of men, or why don't their constituency open for open competitions? So there will be this seat or if there's a rotation, you are breaking the connections between the incumbency MP and the constituencies, the voters, which is causing some of the huge debates in first past the post system. Ideally, to increase women representation, we should move forward to a big magnitude electoral system, to a more proportional representation system, so that we can actually impose quota in candidate and in fact in seats. For example, in Taiwan, there are nationwide proportional representation seats that require at least 50% women be elected as final result. So usually they rank the first is woman, second is man, third is woman, fourth is man. So the zigzag method helps the women's politicians get into their legislative assembly. But that's not the case in Malaysia, and as we know, probably electoral reform is not a top priority for the current government, and we might need to do more jobs, more efforts in order to persuade the society goal for proportional representations. So we are not discussing in this report. But is there any other chances for us to use to increase the women's seats in the room? So we found some of the things is actually the additional members seats in 3 states. First is Sabah, second is Terengganu, third is Farah. So there's an attempt by Penang to create an additional seats. Eventually the effort doesn't go far. We hope the current government will take it again, but for these 3 states, they have existing appointed member seats. Sabah, the maximum goes to 6, Terengganu, the maximum goes to 4, and Pahang, the maximum goes to 5. There is actually a weakness in that system because more often it was used as a government bonus seat. It rewards the government coalitions, either reward their main partners or some of the partners who sacrifice the electoral contest. For example, in Sabah government, they will appoint pass into the nominated members because they successfully persuade pass not to contest in the state elections. And for example, in Farah, we will just appoint their appointed member seats in the last year, with 5 of them distribute evenly to PH and BF, the 2 coalition partners in the state. So you face the criticism of not democratic because you just want to reward your loyal friends or political friends in the political industry. And second, for Terengganu case, they actually made the appointed member system specifically for women and non-Muslim. But the appointment is not mandatory. For example, they have the appointment system around 2003, the year 2003. In year 2004 until year 2018, there's no woman in the group. But the government never exercised the powers to appoint women into the group. So it's still a discretionary power by the government whether I want to appoint or not. And for example, they want to empower non-Muslim, but in this dune, the current Terengganu dune, there's no non-Muslim in the dune, but there's no appointment made. That's the weaknesses of the current appointment system. It becomes the discretionary power for the executive, for the incumbent government. But a bad system doesn't mean we can't utilize it. So in our idea, we actually see as an opportunity to transform the appointed member seat to become a reserve seat for women and an experiment arena for proportional representation system, which we call it a WOAS mechanism, the woman only additional seat mechanism, which I shall explain in 1 minute. So when we see this after the Penang projects, we may see when we identify these 3 states, we successfully go to Sabah and Terengganu. Maybe we may go to Pahang if the time and resources allow us to do so. But I think we get a very good feedback from the workshops on this mechanism. So how to implement that? The implementation looks like a real proportional representation. The difference is that just the voter doesn't have a second vote, like Thailand or Taiwan, which have a party list, they have 2 votes. By the current situation, because the electoral law belongs to federal jurisdiction. The state can't say I need a second vote. So that's a compromise with the system. But eventually it becomes an indirect mandate through the appointment process. Why I say so? Because the allocation of seats to each party depends on the state general election result. For example, if you get 50% of the vote in the state general elections, you should get half of the seats. For example, if the maximum number is 6, you get 3, the maximum number is 5, therefore you get between 2 to 3. So the appointment process started right after nominations. There's a committee being set up, ideally chaired by a civil servant or someone who is impartial, collect the list from the party, announce the list during the campaign period, so the voters are informed not only the constituency's candidate, but also the list of nominee, the list of potential women appointee recommended by the political party. The voter know the list and can access the list, can judge whether I should vote certain party based on the list they propose. So after the elections, when the result is announced, then the committee will allocate the seats to each party based on the vote shares in the state general elections. And the appointee will strictly be the woman who is being listed by the political party and submitted to the committee. So the whole process is actually run during the parallel and during to the general elections, and the appointments have slightly indirect mandate from the voter, because instead of become the government party, the appointment actually partly influenced by the state general election result. So who can be the one on the list? Of course, this can be more to a policy design. The only strict requirement is women, because we need the seat reserved for women. And the second thing is that only the political party who contest in the state general elections are eligible to submit a list. The reason is very simple, because if you don't contest in the election, you don't have a result as a reference to allocate seats. So, but for the other requirement, for example, whether we should have double candidacy, whether we should let experienced women politicians but participated in the elections to join again, to rejoin the state legislative assembly through the quota system. Penang have a different idea, Sabah maybe has a different idea also, so that is quite flexible. But the core idea is that we need to make use of this appointment system for women and allocate the seat based on party strength instead of government votes. So there's some additional features that can be introduced through this system. For example, second layer quota. We are not only lack of women in the road. Some of the minority ethnic, for example, in Terengganu, the non-Malay or non-Muslim, in Sabah, probably there are some indigenous groups who are not included in DUN for a long time, or even like this group for youth. In Penang, they even introduced OKU, the disability group, as a second layer quota. So try to use second layer quota to include them in DUN. For example, this is the proposal we propose to Sabah. They have a six members appointment systems. So we can define the second layer quota, for example, among the first two on the list, there must be one as a diversity nominee, which means either it's youth, either it's ethnic minority, or otherwise. Depends on the design of each state. So if one of the party wins, for example, 50% of votes, that's the party A. So by logic, the party should get 3 seats out of 6. So among the top 3, there is one is youth, or there's one woman is from the ethnic minority, which this youth can get into DUN through the second layer quota. This is some of the advantage of proportional representation systems which nation can experience, and through WOAS we can actually implement. And after the elections, which women are which women are eligible to sit in the Dun is actually based on the sequence of the list that the parties are in. So, for example, the parties are in named from 1 to 6. If the party gets 1 seat, the first on the list you get is your Dun. So, even though there's one advantage for this system is that even if there's a vacancy happens in this list, for example, the first in the list decide to resign or for whatever reason the seat needs to be vacated. Under this list, you can always replace by the second, the one ranked the second, and the third or the subsequent rank. So there's no need for by-election even for this appointment system. Is quite normal in the professional representation system, but not experienced in Malaysia. So this is a very brief on how this system operated. They move from a government discretionary seat, become a system similar to closed list proportional representations. So what is the result? What is the difference between having women only additional seat system and not? So if we use 2020 Sabah state election as a result, so on the left hand side, the most left figures is actually the status quo. Without WOAS, the government party GRS can allocate a seat to their component party or their electoral partners. So it's government decide. The whole 6 seats is decided by one party. But what if there's a WOAS implemented in 2020? The scenario might be different. Because based on the state general election results, probably from the Warisan Plus camp, including PH and Warisan, can get 3. From the other electoral coalition, quite loosely electoral coalitions from BN, PN, and PDS, each of them can get 1. This ensures not only the inclusivity of between men and women, also the inclusivity across the political spectrum. When we talk about representation, we are not only talk about women, we also talk about different political background, even different professional, different issues. So what happens to Terengganu? So at the right hand side on the top is a status quo. There are 4 additional member seats, but the circle is a blind because they doesn't appoint anyone through the system. Even though the whole legislative assembly only have 1 woman out of 32. It's around 3.1%. But what if we implement WOAS and the appointment system needs to be done after every elections? Then probably PAS needs to appoint 3. We need to appoint 3 seats for PAS because they've been quite remarkably in the last state general election. But at least one of the seats needs to be appointed to Barisan Nasional, the second largest party in the state general elections. Which this graph only shows the inclusivity across the political spectrum. But the next graph goes back to our main topic where we talk about increase of women representation. This is the result. If Sabah, before implemented WOAS, their women representation is around 9.6%. With appointment system after the chief minister appoints 6 members into the Dun, slightly increased above 10% because within the 6 one husband, also one appointed is woman. But if the whole 6 appointed adu needs to be women, needs to be appointed and they must be women, the percentage increase will be from 9.6 up to 16.5. Although it's not satisfactory, doesn't achieve the goal of the 1995 Beijing platform action platforms. However, it's a substantial increase of Sabah. And another benefit is that some of the young women politicians can go through this channel to showcase their ability. To convince the party, women are able to conduct legislative affairs in the Dun, can be a qualified adu, thus you should view me in the electoral contest next time. It's a platform for you to showcase and prove your ability. Go to Terengganu. Terengganu, currently there's 1 adu out of 32. Without WOAS, without appointment, it's a status score still 1 out of 32. But after appointment, it will be 5 out of 36, and the percentage will increase from 3.1 up to 14%. So it's a significant increase. Some of them maybe argue whether appointed ADU should have a full power or not. Of course, we recommend appointed ADU since it's a system similar to closed list proportional representation, they should get full power to show their ability to conduct, show their ability to handle policy matters, to prepare them. Eventually, it's a tool to prepare them to contest in the real elections. So that's all our ideas about women-only additional seats. We are grateful to have Sabah and Terengganu to conduct workshop and listen to their experience and also opinions. And my presentation shall stop here. So this is a QR code. It leads to a Google Drive that contains this slide, our tool report for Sabah and Terengganu, and also the soft copy report for Penang in February 2021. So thank you very much.
Google Drive, but once our sorry, I think once it's all up, we will put it in our website as well and share to everybody. So now we go to the next section, which I will invite Farah from Bait Al Amanah to introduce the panel and share the discussion.
Thank you, Shari. Good morning, everyone. Okay, first of all, I would like to invite Dato Ong Bee Leng and also Datin Fazar Arif as a guardian to come forward. Okay, good morning once again. I'm Farah from Bait Al Amanah, partner with Projek SAMA to conduct the workshop in Sabah, Terengganu, and also in writing the report. So, welcome to the panel discussion today, where we will explore the opportunities, challenges surrounding women-only additional seats initiatives that have been presented by Chansey just now. So today we are so honored to be joined by the esteemed panelists from Penang and also Sabah. So right beside me we have Dato Ong Bee Leng. She is currently the CEO of Penang Women Development Corporation, PWDC. Yeah, so PWDC is the pioneer of WOAS, so-called women-only additional seat in Penang. So we learned a lot from PWDC, and also this movement. So she's also been in education and training industry for over 37 years, and had also served in Malaysian Territorial Army Regiment for more than 10 years as commissioned Army officer, such an iron lady that we have today. Okay. Besides Dato Ong, we have Datin Fazar Arif, a very inspiring lady. She is the Malaysian activist, writer, and advocate, strong advocate for women empowerment and political awareness. So she is the founder of POWER, which is Pergerakan Orang Wanita, Empowerment and Revolution, and also the executive producer of Wanita Adalah Rakyat. You all should listen to this song about how inspiring the song has been to women in Sabah. Yeah, we should create more songs like that. And also Malaysia too. Okay, and then obviously we have Ms Beverley Koh, which is a dynamic Malaysian politician and Vice President of Star Sabah. So she is a fearless advocate for women empowerment, where she has dedicated 9 years to politics, rising from woman leader of Kadamayan to leading Star Sabah in Pawang today. She is a mother of 6. See, as your colleague, we never challenge, Chanel is not a challenge, never a reason for you to not be active in politics. And also a chairperson of WOAS Sabah movement, a movement that was created after our workshop in Sabah last year and has been active until today. So we have a lot to listen and learn from the panelists that we have today. Okay, so we will start the panel discussion with a bit of critical question. So I pose this question to our panelists today, which is some of people, including women, argue that a minimum quota or system like WOAS could be seen as anti-meritocratic and potentially leading to inclusion of unqualified women in politics. So what's your response to this concern, and how do you think that such system can ensure that merit and competence are not compromised by also promoting gender equality? Perhaps we go to Dato Ong first.
Thank you so much, Farah, and also the organizing committee to have us in this critical conversation. And of course, so welcome to see many new faces and young faces in the audience. Back to this question about meritocracy, I always ask, I always wonder, why is it that when we talk about women, there are questions about whether the person is competent, whether they have a credit or the merits and all that. But we never pose that question when we talk about men going up in politics, do we? Yeah. So why is it happening? Maybe just to take a little step back and look at the situation. Let's say we have a couple who just got married and we have children. Both both the husband and wife are working. Well, if the man were to go back to work, all right, how do you think the boss will receive him? He said, wow, you just got a child. Wow, you must be working harder now. And wow, I think you will be more aggressive and will perform better in work if it's a mother. However, if I turn the table and ask, what about the mother? Mother going back to work. What's the perception of the boss? He may think, wow, we have a child. I think we will not be able, we're not able to spend so much time in the office now. Because you'll be busy taking the child for check-ups, for your stay and all that. And I don't think you'll be able to travel so much. So this is what happened because the society had this unconscious bias about men and women. You see, people came back with newborn babies. However, we perceive them differently. And this type of gender stereotype actually exists and still exists in our society. And that's why we see women could be less competent just because they are women. It's not that they are not competent, but it's just that we perceive them differently. And worst is, we don't have many role models. So it's a chicken and egg. Do we promote women and then put them out there, normalize that women is a leader, women are leaders, or do we wait for that to happen? But because we don't have enough, then people see benchmark differently. So the case of just now, mother parenting, but fatherhood bonus. So bonus is a so that is something that we probably as a society we have to think through. You know, how it actually impacts our decision and how we perceive things. And a part about women and all that, I think it is also time and again, and I think Chansi actually has shown that in terms of equality, women And I would like to stress, this is already a very major breakthrough. If you compare maybe a generation ago, you find that there are actually more men going to schools, going to tertiary education compared to women. Right? But that parity, in fact, Malaysia is actually one of the top, in fact, they're number one of the top people who actually have achieved parity in education. So we should be very proud of it. And I think that is already a very important basis for us to talk about equality. Because as more and more women are educated, in fact, sorry to say, we are actually in a situation that there are more girls than boys in tertiary education. If you look at the stats, okay, there are around 65% girls in education in IPTC. But the question I want to pose is, where are they after the graduation? Yeah. In economy, they're still bad. Women are still 60 to 70% at that level. In politics, we are only around 10%. That's how bad it is. It's not translated to workforce, it's not translated into politics. That's where the big, huge gap is. Maybe I said that.
And we can listen from Datin Fazar.
Hi, good morning everyone, and thank you Farah and the organizing committee, Projek SAMA, the Canadian funds and initiatives for local initiative and everyone present today. Thank you, I appreciate being invited to share my thoughts on the topic. Talking about actually endlessly in Malaysia. It has, I think, it was 5 years ago that I was invited to speak about this additional seats for women as well. And nothing actually has progressed much in terms of additional seats for women since then. But this is not something which is new. It has been talked about, and in fact, countries like Pakistan, from 1950s, they have already enacted and put this reserved seats, even if it was just a small percentage, 5%, for women to have reserved seats. But it was in the constitution from the 1950s, Pakistan, country, and India. But of course, even with that measure, there was not much progress. But it was only in year 2000 when President Musharraf actually, because the whole thing about having a quota is about democracy, okay, and that is something that is a necessity. The gender quota, unfortunately, although it's a necessity, but it's only a temporary measure. But because, like in Pakistan, as I mentioned earlier, they made it, the president himself made it compulsory to have 33% women quota for local and national government. They managed to actually, in 2001, 2002, they got about 36,000 women elected representatives compared to 40,000. This is based on research that I quickly done. Okay? So it has to be from the top. The willpower has to come from the top. And unfortunately, we have not had that from in Malaysia, from our own government, especially the ones at the top. Now, when you talk about meritocracy, so the suggestion is that the 80% or 90% men have the merits, actually merits to be there, and the 30% women that minimum, we're talking about minimum women that we tried, we've been talking about, advocating about, that have failed to garner the minimum, but are we suggesting that none of them would be as qualified as the 90%? It is something that people should think about. You know, I've heard it myself, like, oh, the minute, like Dato Ong said, the minute you talk about women, 30% say, well, they must be qualified and all that. Well, we never mentioned anything about men, whether they were qualified or not. And the country is now, if you look at Malaya from 1957 and as Malaysia from 1963, how old are we and how much progress have we accomplished? And the men now, at the moment, you know, if we have 80% or 85% men policymakers, they're making, currently making policies for the 16.1 million of women as well. So I think when you talk about meritocracy, just putting the quota system, because we know this is something that has been researched all over the world by international organizations and all that. So it's not something that we just came up with and dreamt of in Malaysia especially. So countries like Cuba, countries like Rwanda, even UAE and what other countries? They have more than 46% women representatives. So and that's because it's based on quota. Okay, I think that's about it that I want to share.
Thank you, Datin Fazar. I'm related to Ms Beverley.
Thank you for having me here. I'm very honored to be part of this. So first of all, the concern that women on the additional seats or gender quotas could be seen as anti-meritocracy and lead to the inclusion of unqualified women in politics. It's very common, but based on a misunderstanding of how this system works. In reality, if it's designed properly, such a system can complement meritocracy rather than undermining it. And I have listed a few, but let me just point to one I would like to highlight very much is addressing systemic barriers and unequal access. Historically, men have had greater access to power networks and political mentorship. Gender quotas or WOAS aim to level the playing field by ensuring women have equal opportunities to demonstrate their abilities, acknowledge that true meritocracy requires fair access to opportunities. So, like I said, we normally see majority, we normally see only the men networking on a political level. So when do we see women? They are normally, you only see the wives, the Latinas. So that's the scenario. So I don't see why women they are seeing that they are only the partner for the guys, the politicians. They have never been seen as a leader. Okay. So, conclusion to that, gender quotas or WOAS are designed to level the playing field by offering qualified women the opportunity to also compete, not to lower the standards. When we try our best to implement it properly, this system do not sacrifice merit, but instead we increase the pool of qualified candidates, and it will lead to better governance, more diverse perspectives, and more inclusive decision making. And over time, as gender parity is achieved, this system can evolve. But for now, they ensure that gender does not become a barrier to leadership success.
Thank you, Beverly. So from the discussion just now, we can see that the issue is not because women is unqualified, therefore they are not supposed to get this additional seat, but there is an issue of unequal access for women to actually penetrate this political area. So only then we can see that actually women is capable, not because of their unqualified or whatnot. And actually, we have a very good examples of giving access to women, and then she become very credible politician, which is why this Rida Bano in Terengganu. We'll go further into that later, but for now, we'll ask the question to Dato Ong. So Dato Ong, PE is the pioneer in advocating to us, and your organization has played a very critical role in this movement. And for everyone's information, the movement of TWAS in Penang is innovative because in Penang there's no special provision for nominated other seats, not even for women, as Sabah and Terengganu has. So this movement is very innovative. So we want to hear from you what motivated you to champion this cause and also the background of TWAS in Penang.
Thank you. Well, it was actually through one of our conference that we actually did on gender and electoral reform. So that was back in 2016. From that conference, we found that there is a need, critical need to increase women's representation, okay? Be it at the state or even at the national level. So at that time, we were actually focusing very much at the state. And a group of like-minded, at that time you were saying that we're crazy people because we're trying to do something which nobody had done. So that includes Prof. Chinpai and okay, who were with us then, and a few others like Wadi Chongke, Wadi Suki, Dr. Cecilia, Karen, and Rachel, and the team from PWDC. So we actually formed a committee to look into the TWAS. It went through a lot of up and downs, to be frank, and even for the whole, until we actually came up with the white paper. So the outcome was actually a white paper which was actually brought to the State Assembly. It's just a top-up women voting agency, slightly different from what we have in the WOAS. This is after the election. Okay, and if we don't have the 30%, then we top it up. So it is an additional, but it's top up. So let's say if you find that after the election there are only 20% women, okay, then you top it up to make it at least 30%. And the beauty of it is the top up is actually based on a vote share. I think it's to me that's a very important feature. It is not elected, it is not nominated by any ruling party, but it is based on vote share. They say party A has 70% of the vote, party B has 30%. Then to fill up the 10% difference, 70% goes to party A and party B gets the 30%. So it is again very democratic, and it actually opens a lot of opportunity because we look into opportunity of smaller party which may have lost in the first past polls, but when they combine, they could get a 10, 20, or 30%. So they then also can come into the state assembly. Yeah. So it is on that we actually engage. I think minimum 25 forums, discussion, on and off, and then that time I remember it was during COVID and all that. We persisted, okay, and finally we actually brought the paper to the state assemblies. However, I would say that it was so near and yet so far, okay, because it was not, we couldn't get it tabled and get it debated. So fast, we couldn't get it to amend the constitution, the state constitution, for this to happen. However, I always believe that there will come a time when that happens. It's just a matter of time, and if we persist and we persevere, and we still push this agenda, one day it will happen. Yeah. And I believe, when the stars are aligned, it will happen. And I also believe that when there's a change in leadership, there's a change of the condition, and the environment is right, trust will come into play.
Sorry, Dr. Following from that, drawing from your experience in thinking, what are the key steps for creating more buy-in for political leaders and also stakeholders to make this more successful?
In fact, during the conversation, the discussion, and the forum, we did take their input and actually even tweak the initial proposal. So there was actually a lot of change based on the engagement, the stakeholders' engagement. The engagement involved the CSOs, the political parties, even party members. They invited us. We were there to share what is this about. I think the engagement is very important. One of the biggest barriers is always the leadership. Whether we believe this is what is going to change them. So, on the high side, I think it has to be packaged in a way that is answering what is it in for them. I think that's something that we really need to be critical about. For any of this change, why would the leader want to change? So we must package it, and the narrative must be along that line. Then they see the value and they see the need for it to change. We can be talking and shouting about gender equality, right? But it is not in their radar, it is not something that politicians like. Sometimes we say shall find a politician is only 5 years. So they have some are very short, short span in terms of their vision and what they want to do. However, I also see there are politicians who are very sincere and progressive and want to see the change. I think those are the ones that we should be also approaching, because they see the long-term dynamic of talking about gender equality and what we can achieve on gender equality. So the buy-in is so important. We were so near and then so far because it was practically like this is the final one, if we can pass it, we'll get it through, and table it and all that. Sayang, too bad it didn't happen. But yeah, it's still optimistic that it will happen. One week.
Thank you, Dato Ong. We are also hopeful for towards maintaining to be debated and implemented eventually. That will be a big win for women all over Malaysia. Okay, so on to Datin Fazar. So, Datin Fazar, your video of Wanita Adalah Rakyat has been so inspiring, especially the powerful image of women marching towards Sabah State Assembly at the end of the video. So, from your perspective, what are the key challenges posed by the low representation of women in lawmaking and policy? And also, what have been the most important lessons in advocating for women empowerment? On to you.
Thank you, Farah. The women marching towards the State Assembly was something that I get the cameraman said, this is a short scene that we must have. And it wasn't easy actually to even get the space in the beginning. And they were saying that you should only have it outside, it cannot be inside. I said, oh, that's fine, we only want it outside anyway, so that's not what happened. So ultimately, in whatever we do, it needs strategy, it needs engineering, it needs planning on how we want to get there. But it's also about pursuing and really, if you really believe in it, you have to work hard for it. And the way I say it now,
as it is. The reason why I wanted the song anyway, because it is to motivate, to inspire women to fight for their rights and to know that wanita adalah rakyat, wanita is people, citizens, the women are people, and they are not secondary citizens. But it's very hard, I think, to get that into, at the moment, I mean, to be honest, our community and society, the women are still so afraid to come forward. Somebody can say, well, we've been asking you to join politics as well, but that's not the point. The point is, I think there's a lack of understanding of what policymakers or what being in politics is all about. And I think most of the time now, a lot of people, the women who are in politics, perhaps in the urban areas, it is because they wanted to be there. People like Farah, for example, and a few others. But the rest of them, I know it's because of the family. The family, somebody asked them to be there, or because of the situation that they're in. But that is very, very minimal. But I think it is the lack of exposure, the lack of self-esteem, the lack of confidence amongst the women. So, because I think Malaysia being just 60 years old, all right? So we're still a very young country. There need to be a lot more exposure for the women to step up. One of the reasons I formed Power, the Gerakan Wanita and Common Revolution, for example, is because you know how social media, especially WhatsApp groups now, are very popular to get hundreds of people together to talk and for them the government or talk about politics and all that. But the women are very quiet. You hardly hear, you hardly see any women making comments. And most of the men who are making comments, perhaps most of them are retirees too. But the men are more vocal. And so hence I decided, maybe because they are scared to speak up. So I created Power for that. Majority women to be in the group to talk about politics and sometimes as in the other groups there tend to be some provocateurs and all that. But there will always be some other men who will come up and challenge, but not in amongst the women. They will not do that. So I guess the mindset and the inability to speak up and being scared of offending other people, and men have got no reason to do that. So I think for the what I've learned from my song, and then also from told you the reason why I did that, because I'm also I get really inspired when I listen to motivational songs, and that's why I really it was my dream to do that. And now with the WhatsApp group as well, a lot of them are still not stepping up to share their thoughts and minds about what they think about certain issues and all that. There's very, very few who are really doing it, and most of them are perhaps a much younger generation. Some of them who are very active in the WhatsApp group. What I mean for me is just to get women to stir them up, to shake them up, to come out and share whatever their thoughts are, whether it's positive or negative. I think there's a lot of problem with self-esteem, lack of self-confidence, perhaps.
Thank you, Datin Fazar. So now we listen to Beverley. Beverley is in Sabah. So in our workshop last year, Sabah has been like one of our participants that is so energetic among all other participants. So we really appreciate their attendance and their commitment until today. So last year we have conducted the workshop to discuss on the possibility to implement this in Sabah. So I want to know from Beverly, how have the political parties responded to this initiative and reform? And also that we know that some argue that the original additional seats in Sabah were intended for minority groups, and making them compulsory for women would deprive other minority groups in Sabah. So what are your thoughts in this concern, and how do you think that WOAS mechanism could resolve this so that WOAS can be implemented in Sabah? Thank you. Over to you.
I think this is going to be a long answer, but I'll make it short as possible and sweet, so that the idea and concept will be acceptable to everyone, especially Sabah. Okay, I'm going to answer the second question first, and then we'll look at how the political parties in Sabah respond. Okay, let me bring all of you to imagine what kind of woman leader that we seek in order not to deprive the minority groups. Yeah. We are seeking a woman leader who can effectively lead and represent all races, regardless of her own racial background. Someone who demonstrates inclusivity, empathy, and cultural awareness. Such a leader prioritizes fairness and equality, actively seeking to understand and address the unique needs and concerns of all communities. She must be someone who can foster a sense of unity and belonging, making sure all voices are heard and valued. Her leadership is based on principles of justice, respect, and the recognition of shared humanity, rather than focusing on any one racial or cultural identity. Through her actions and decisions, she creates an environment where everyone feels represented and empowered. And this is what I can call the ideal woman leader that we're seeking, and we've been seeking all this while. So, if we're going to have one woman leader who can do that in each constituency, then we'll have no minority group will be underrepresented. Everyone belongs. Okay? So we can have this kind of leaders. We can have women leaders who possess these qualities as I mentioned just now. So back to the responses of political parties. So I can always bring my own personal opinion to you today, but bear in mind I am also representing all the women chiefs from several political parties in Sabah. Okay, what I hear most of the time, all the keluhan, okay, keluhan wanita, selanjutnya. They will come to me and they will just pour out their hearts. They will say that women are never given a chance. And I also evaluate whether or not they try, whether or not they are brave enough to come in front. But that is the case. We don't have that many women who are brave enough to come forward and to lead. traditionally we have women, the women leading the women's wing. This is sad. This is very sad. What I'm trying to portray, and maybe we can reframe this by asking the participation of women in politics. It's a big challenge when we see the women as mothers, like myself. I have to attend to my children, I have to take care of them if I have children who are still very, very young age. I have to attend to the needs. I need to divide my time. So to get involved, like, and give 100% commitment to one political organization is also a big challenge for me. But if I'm not doing this today, how can I expect to see more women to come after me? So it has to start now. It has to start this year, and we are trying to get this idea across to whichever party is interested, to wherever the community that will want to invite us to do more development programs in their areas. We would like to see that. And come forward and contact the NGOs, get yourself involved. And I mean, try to get as many participants to come and to understand. So while we are participating in this kind of programs, we will assess our own abilities. The women can see for themselves. Are they, up to par? Okay, are they capable of dividing the time between living in the kampung or just in their own NGO? Okay. So if they come forward, then they'll know how far they can go. Otherwise, they'll just stay in that place and no changes will happen. But we don't want to see people lagging behind anymore, or the women especially. We're talking about the best interest of our women in Sabah, and I hope in Terengganu as well, okay? Because it's important. We are talking about our concern as mothers. Okay? We're not just being, I'm a wanita, merely just mentioning wanita, but that doesn't serve the purpose, the whole purpose of it. And the ambition, the big ambition that we have from PWDC, ya, saya sangat memuji wanita di Penang karena sangat progresif dan mereka sangat proaktif mengejar apa yang mereka mau. So what do we want for the women in Sabah, in Terengganu, and all the other neighboring states? What do we want? Do we share the same goal? So back to the response, the women actually show very positive interest in this mission, in this idea. So let's research what other methods that can actually penetrate in all the kawasan. Let us research whether or not we have probably 50% more than that constituencies that would like to see women be filtered to candidate in this coming election. They're not gonna come and say, okay, we want women leaders here. But when the NGOs come and organize programs like this and create the awareness that we really need this talk to them that, oh, it's time, let's do this now. Yeah, we need to go forward. We need to get on with this idea. Develop the skills. Those who are still beginners, when we enter the school system, we need to start from kindergarten, right? Preschool and kindergarten. So, how we convey this strategy is by doing basic programs where they can get familiar first, and then we target a certain group of women who are already leaders in the communities, get them involved, make them more participative, organize a congress, such colloquiums, invite more speakers. But I'm just asking, make it as simple as possible, so that they will want to come up. If it's too difficult or too advanced, if it sounds too tricky, too jargon for them, they might just say, okay, these are for career women, professionals. They're not for me. So I received these kind of comments. They will say, okay, leave it to them, the professionals, the lawyers. They don't want to come up because they feel like they are very simple, maybe from rural areas. They don't want to come. They are malu. Okay? But yes, still, they want to voice out their opinions, what they feel is important. Policy making. In the first place, I participated in politics not because I want to, not because I will get famous one day, but I was thinking how the next generation, how my kids later on, when I'm not here anymore. So if I'm in politics, if I want to I want to be part of the policy making, I have to get involved. My voice must be heard. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Beverley. Ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at the trade-based innovation politics, women innovation politics here. All of us are the movement. We also the next question. Who are more inclined to vote for reasons. So how do you think that this kind of mindset can be shaped? And also, what kind of advocacy effort or long-term changes that needs to be done to achieve meaningful change in women empowerment and policy making? Perhaps we listen from Dato Ong first.
That's a very tough question. Maybe I'll just share one thing I did. That was back in 2017. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with the JKKK, the Datin Fazar Arif, that at the community level. So at that time, in fact, majority of the office barriers and also the community members are male. These are working in the kampung, in the taman and all. So the state then came out with a policy. How do we want to achieve 30% in this sort of environment? So they came out with a policy that every time there's a new nomination, new appointment, we started with zero, the government zero. They say that, okay, 2017, there must be at least one out of the 15 must be women. Started with that. Okay. And then 2 years down the road, it must be 3. And then the next 2 years, it must be 5. So 5 out of 15, then we took 30%. So we started with that. So 2017, 2019, 2021, we achieved 30% in a matter of 3 appointments, a matter of 6 years. And that's doable because of our policy change. I'm glad to say today, 2024, the last appointment, we already got 37%
Sidang Wanita. Okay, where we take women to different places. And the final place we put them is that assembly. Okay, and the beauty of it is that the speaker of our state assembly is very, very supportive. He chairs the state assembly when we have the Sidang of the Women's Assembly. He chairs it every year for the last 5 years. He makes sure he's there. So, importance of male allies, importance of, when the many persons supporting, it will change the landscape. And we also see that when women are given the space, the opportunity, wow, you'll be surprised. The last round, the speaker said, wow, this Sidang Wanita participants I think they're better than Adu. Okay, don't bring that back, but that was a comment. And it's very proud because it's not just the women, but it's the quality of the debate, which was, he was very impressed. Okay. So, don't say that given the opportunity, given the space, I know women can excel. Thank you.
I want to give dedication spirit to product staff and also to make most of the opportunity that we get. So how about we listen from Datin Fazar?
I think we've been talking about this and somehow the level, most of the time, maybe we don't really realize the language barrier in Malaysia. It's not just the often controversial religion and race and all that, but it's also the language is very much a barrier. When we talk about this kind of topic, how many of the target people understand what we are talking about or even interested to listen? Even I know in Sabah, and I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but quite a lot of them do not, cannot follow this kind of discussion and it's conducted in English. So that's something that we need to talk about very seriously. I know a lot of people have been talking about, oh, we must emphasize English, the English language. But if you go to Indonesia, all Indonesians speak Indonesian language. And now they're working on the English language. But some of the best speakers, some of the best advocates of women or human rights, they're very active out there and they speak in the same language, which is Indonesian language. And I think perhaps we can't really say much about Philippines, but almost every Filipino speaks Tagalog as well. And that is where I think one of the barriers to get to get the messages across is the language, because some English speakers, the ones who are talking about this, there are also majority Malay speakers who don't understand and who feel they're not included, and there are also the Chinese speakers, the Indian speakers as well, who feel that it's nothing to do with them because they don't understand the language, but actually it has everything to do with all policies applying to every single person of Malaysian, be it for women or men, policies like in terms of even your housing or whatever, that very, very is essential to families. And usually that is supposed to be in the the men are the ones like making these policies. But when we want to talk about quotas, we want to talk about how do we move forward? Who are the ones who are speaking? And I know it is quite controversial when I talk about this, but this is the thing about Malaysia, because I feel, because having studied in interior, Kenyao, not being able to speak in English until I was about 15 years old, and I know I speak français, I speak a bit of French, you know that is also because of exposure. And a lot of people are not, do not have that exposure. So if we want to reach out to the, even like the Terengganu, I think they're not lack of, there's no lacking of leaders over there. I've been to Terengganu, the women, they're very, very hardworking. And sometimes you hardly see it where the men are actually. But why is it that the men are the ones who are getting elected and to make policies to represent the whole population of there? So maybe that's something that you need to really think about how we want to get the message across.
Thank you. Datin Fazar mentioned about the lack of confidence and self-esteem in women, and also low proficiency in English that somehow hinder women from entering this political discourse. So I want to listen from Beverley in this last round before we proceed to Q&A on how political parties can play a role to empower this emerging women political candidates, so that we have more options and more promising women leaders. Over to you.
I can only say from my party's perspective, what we have done internally and throughout the 9 years I was involved. We have been doing programs to develop the leadership skills, to connect with the women in the rural areas, and get as many women to be involved. Every time we organize events, big or small events, and I, in particular, when the women are pushed to the front to be speakers, they will straight away just, think about. So I asked them why. It's not like we're not doing anything at all. We're exposing them, we try. But yeah, we have setbacks. I feel that the push is not that strong enough. It's like, whatever, just try, give it a shot. But I'm also seeing that women who are already in politics, they're not prepared. They lack self-confidence, and they face many challenges from probably marriage, relationship, and time. What else these political parties can do, or what else have they done? I can't say that they've done that much. Most programs the government have conducted, they will just, invite, okay, from this party, and we send 5 representatives, okay, here and there. But this doesn't serve the target that we set for them to see that becoming the leaders that we want. These are just invitations. We just want to see the crowd there, the women crowd, okay? So I would like to suggest, not just to the government sectors, GLCs, but to get all these NGOs, not just from Sabah, but we have Bait Al Amanah, Projek SAMA, we have NGO Power, to try and grasp the root of the problem, the language barriers, and to grasp the interest, the women's interest. What's actually stopping them to attend, to come, and to learn something? Not just attending, we want them to really get involved and find the passion inside of them to speak out. Otherwise, it's just they're present, but the heart is not there. So we do not develop anything from that lack of interest. Okay. So yes, we have done a few programs, but I think to achieve the target, to get the best results, we need to improve. We need to improve and do more. Do more, yeah. Definitely. We need it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Beverley. So yeah, more program, more empowerment training is needed to really see the emerging ideal role model, just like what Beverley said just now. So now we open, thank you so much for our dear panelists. We open the floor for a 10-minute Q&A session. So if you have any curiosity or further explanation needed, you may raise your hand. Is there any? Yes, sir, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Rizal from Impala. And first of all, I would like to congratulate Projek SAMA, Bait Al Amanah, and other collaborators in pulling off this report and this meeting. Thank you very much. It's been quite demanding. This women in agencies and the project is trying to put them in difficult, really difficult constituencies like Terengganu and Sabah. So really quite courageous of people going to quite conservative areas and trying to break the class limit. And our, by the way, has launched a campaign on the 30%. It's called Project 30%. But we are taking the scenic route, the long route, right? Rather than pushing for women in additional seats in state constituencies. What we're doing is pushing the political parties to field at least 30% women by the next election, which is 2027, 2028. And the second leg for our strategy and our campaign is to push the government to enact legislation to compel the political parties to field at least 30% women at all levels, state as well as federal. So as you know now, we are at something like 13.5% in parliament and 12.5% in others, with variations, as you rightly point out, single digits in the East Coast states and Sabah, and close to 30% in Johor, for instance. We feel basically we want to take the long route. Why? Because of all the reasons that the panel discussed just now. The male dominance, the reproduction of patriarchy in the household, in the political parties, the dominance of male decision making and male sort of rhetoric and narrative in selecting candidates, etc. Right? So we feel the discourse and the narrative in our campaign is as important as the end goal, right? Because we need to basically change society, and it's a long-term project. Beijing 1995 started 30 years ago, right? And we're still not there yet. That's because this the narrative has not seeped into the male mean, why does a political party have a women's wing and not a men's wing? Right? You ask yourself that. Right? Because women are seen as a supplement to male power. Right? So basically, women are always assistants. They always clean up after political party meeting. Meetings are arranged such that it's not convenient for a person like Beverley with 6 children to attend a meeting. Right? Because the narrative and the discourse is dominated by women. And that needs to break down. So we feel our campaign, once we have the end goal of the 30% and changes to the law, we feel the journey is as important. Like what Dato Ong also said just now, the struggle that she's put up within the JJKs over the years has resulted in change, right? From virtually nothing to more than 30%, and then the women decision makers in the hierarchy of the JJKs, 12% as chairpersons. And that is a struggle that is worth undertaking, right? Because women face all kinds of microaggressions, gross aggressions, discriminations, inequality of access everywhere. So the women that you select must be aware of this. And that comes to struggle. And once you sort of mature through the final struggle, and maybe become a representative in a legislature, you will fight for those causes. I quite like what you said about women will not only fight for women's issues, but for community issues. So that's just a short sort of speech on the campaign that we're taking. And I commend the work that Charlie and the team have done with respect to the women agencies. And thanks also to Sherry and the CFLI in the support. They're also supporting us in this campaign. So the only concern I have with the WOAS strategy is that because the male dominance is so strong, the male narrative is so big in society, right? The moment you have special reservations for women, right, everything else will then be automatically controlled, dominated, and owned by men. So every time there is representation in any of these states with a WOAS system, they say, okay, we have an appointment for you in women seats, and you'll then have a ceiling of only 6 or 7 seats, which doesn't make it 30%. Okay, so I feel that could be a concern on communication. So and then some of y'all, I think, on the panel were struggling with some of the countries that have this. You don't have to look far. Indonesia has a 30% law. They had something like 21%. Timor-Leste, a brand new country, right, has 33% because they put in legislation for 30% in I think 2006, and then that was about 25%. They changed it to at least 1/3 in 2011. They got 33%. Vietnam is at 30%. Okay, so that's because they took an all-society approach, right, from the party structure down to the village team. Right? Malaysia is second last in ASEAN, which is quite shameful, especially since this year we are the chairman of ASEAN. So that's really what I wanted to say. Not much of a question in there, but just a concern that the reservation is resulting in control of the non-reserved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Rongkong. That is very insightful feedback. So maybe we can take one last question before the closing. Okay, so I think, okay, we have one.
Hi, I'm Julie. I'm not saying I'm very familiar with the SAMA constitution, but I just feel very concerned, and what this gentleman has said. Malaysia is not just facing one side of the problem.
I'm talking about general issues here. Malaysia is facing many other issues like social, environmental issues, right? So I believe more women politicians coming to the scene may be able to address with these different problems we are currently facing, because women have a different nature from men in some ways, right? We are more nurturing and more caring. I think so. So we may be more concerned about humanities, right? For example, animal welfare, for example, a very good one. And environmental issues I mentioned, all these, because we are not just to serve ourselves, right, as a politician, right? We need to serve the community. There are many community problems we are currently facing here, which I think if people don't really open their eyes to see, they will not realize. But I realize there are many. Like just now, I had to rush home in the midst of listening to this because one dog in my neighbor was facing big issue because the owner had mental problem. So I had to leave this meeting for 20 minutes, wasted my taxi fare, go back and attend to the dog issue. I mean, that's animal welfare, right? So because I'm a woman, I'm concerned about animals, But for men, they may think that, oh, I continue with this meeting first. Let me finish the meeting and do what I want to do. Then I go and see the dog. The dog, they are being killed by them, right? Or beaten up, broken one leg already. So there's a difference between men and women. So I think because of our caring nature, it's good that Malaysia keep taking in more women politicians so that we have a more balanced development in this country. I think economic development is very important, yes, but on top of that, we need social stability, right? We need environmental protection, right? We cannot overlook the environmental issue we are facing, like flooding, right? Warming of rivers, all this, which can cost the country a lot of money to repair the destruction caused by flooding, right? Sea level rising, Islands those coastal islands are submerged under the sea. More and more coastal areas are submerged under the sea. This kind of catastrophe keep happening, So Malaysia also has to deal with this kind of problem. It's not just women's problems, the community, the environment, right? Like animal welfare, all this, and it's all one package. So I think women politicians are very important to come into the city to deal with various issues we are facing. More than just fighting for women's rights or trying to grab more power for women, it is more than that, I think. Because in the end, as a politician, we have to serve community. That's why we become politicians. It's not because we are serving ourselves. Right. I hope you agree with this, then the country will progress and become better and better. And I always believe in one thing, humanity cannot go. No matter how the country progresses economically, how rich the country is going to be, we cannot lose humanity, is it? That's the gist, that's still the heart of the nation, right? So if we don't really pay attention to this, then the economic growth will not last. It will just come and go very quickly, And then that's all. I think that's all I have to share now, right? All other issues we are going to tackle in this country, because actually I'm also an animal rescuer, that's why I see many animal problems in this country
So inclusion of women is not just about demanding a seat, but to voice out of a more inclusive and overarching issue that we have in Malaysia. So I think that's all that we have for our discussion